All right, let's dive in, shall we? Today we're tackling Matthew 24, and let me tell you, it's a chapter that always gets me thinking. It's where Jesus talks about the destruction of the temple, but it's way more than just that.
You hit the nail on the head. It's like a roadmap for the end times, but it's also packed with timeless wisdom about deception, staying alert, really being present in the world.
Totally, and then there's that whole no one knows the day or the hour thing. It's kind of a mind bender. But let's start at the beginning. Matthew 24:1-2, the disciples are admiring the temple, and Jesus just drops this bombshell that it's all coming down. What's the historical context here? Like, what did the temple represent for the Jewish people back then?
Okay, so imagine this. The temple wasn't just a building, right? It was the heart and soul of their faith, their connection to God, everything. Their whole identity was tied up in it.
So hearing Jesus predict its destruction, that must have been earth-shattering.
Oh, absolutely. And it gets even crazier because just a few decades later, boom, it happens. 70 AD, the Romans destroy the temple, and it sends shockwaves through their world.
Talk about a turning point. So naturally, the disciples were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
In verse 3, they asked Jesus straight up, when's this going down? What's the sign of your return and the end of the age? And that's when Jesus starts to lay out these signs of the end times.
And he doesn't hold back either. He gets specific. Wars, famines, earthquakes. It's all part of the picture.
And then he mentions the rise of false prophets and like this increase in wickedness, right?
Well, almost like he's saying, watch out, things are going to get messy.
Yeah, that line about love growing cold, it sends chills down my spine. It makes you think about, like, is humanity just inherently flawed? Are we doomed to repeat these cycles of violence and corruption?
That's a deep question, right? But I don't think Matthew 24 is about pessimism. I think it's more about being realistic. Jesus acknowledges the brokenness of the world, but also offers a message of hope.
So how do we reconcile those two things, the darkness and the hope?
I think it starts by realizing that even in the midst of chaos, God's story is still unfolding. It's not just about doom and gloom. It's about preparation, about living differently in light of what's to come.
Okay, so we've got these signs, and then Jesus goes hard on the dangers of deception. Like in verses 4-5, he's like, don't be fooled. Many will come in my name, claiming to be the Messiah, and they'll mislead a lot of people. Why is this such a big deal?
Think about it. People crave certainty, especially when things feel uncertain. We want answers, someone to tell us what to do, even if it's not the right thing. And that's where these false prophets step in. They offer these easy solutions, these appealing narratives, but they're just preying on our fears and desires.
It's like we're programmed to fall for these charismatic figures who promise the world, especially when we're feeling vulnerable.
Exactly. And that's why Jesus is saying, hey, be discerning. Don't just take everything at face value. Test the spirits.
So it's not about judging people, but about judging their ideas, their teachings.
Right. Absolutely. It's about asking, what are their motives? Does this align with what I know about God? And honestly, that's a skill we need now more than ever, with all the information overload we face every day.
Yeah, with the news, social media, everyone's got an opinion. It's easy to get caught up in the wrong current.
Right. So we need this deeper kind of vigilance, a spiritual awareness that goes beyond just fact-checking. We need to be rooted in truth so we can spot falsehood when we see it.
Okay, so we've got wars, natural disasters, this rise in wickedness, this constant threat of deception. And then Jesus throws out this term, the Great Tribulation, a time of suffering unlike anything the world has ever seen. I mean, how do we even wrap our heads around that?
I know, it's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the key is not getting lost in the details of what this tribulation might look like, but focusing on the message of perseverance.
So it's not about escaping hardship, but about enduring it.
Exactly. It's about finding strength and hope even in the darkest moments, knowing that God is with us, that he won't abandon us.
Okay, so we're seeing a theme here. Vigilance, discernment, perseverance. These are the tools we need to navigate these challenges. But then we get to this whole mystery surrounding the timing of it all.
The day and hour unknown. Right. No one knows when Jesus will return, not even the angels, only God the Father, and that's where things get really interesting.
It's like a cosmic cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
But why do you think Jesus keeps this detail shrouded in mystery? What's the point of not knowing?
Well, I think it has to do with how we live our lives. If we knew the exact date, we might be tempted to just coast until then, or even try to manipulate things to fit our own timeline.
It's like knowing you have a test on Friday, so you cram on Thursday night. You don't really learn the material, you just try to pass the test. But if you knew a pop quiz could happen at any moment, you'd be studying consistently.
You got it. That's the kind of mindset Jesus is encouraging. It's not about living in fear or obsessing over the future. It's about being prepared, living each day with intention as if it could be the day.
So how do we balance that sense of urgency with the reality that we just don't know? I feel like we've covered so much already, and I'm wondering, what does this all mean for us, like right now, today?
That's the big question. Yeah, Matthew 24 is one of those chapters that just keeps unfolding the more you dig into it. But let's try to bring some of this into our world today, make it practical.
Okay, so remember how Jesus talked about wars and rumors of wars? I mean, hasn't there always been conflict? What makes this different from what's always happened?
You're right. Conflict is part of human history. It's always been there. But the way Jesus describes it, it's like he's highlighting something specific. It's not just wars, it's rumors of wars. And that makes me think about how information spreads today, how we're constantly bombarded with news and opinions and social media updates. It creates this atmosphere of anxiety, like there's always something brewing, even if it's happening on the other side of the world.
Right, it's like this constant low-grade panic fueled by the 24/7 news cycle. It can make you feel powerless, like you're just caught in the middle of it all.
And that's why I think Jesus' words are so relevant today. He's not trying to scare us, but to prepare us. To remind us that living in a broken world means facing conflict, facing uncertainty, but it's about how we respond.
So not with fear, but with courage, with faith.
Exactly. It's about engaging with the world, not hiding from it, but engaging in a way that reflects our faith, our values.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the famines Jesus mentioned? I mean, in many parts of the world, we live with so much abundance. Does that sign even apply anymore?
Absolutely it applies. Global hunger is still a massive problem for millions of people. Poverty, conflict, climate change, there's so many factors that contribute to it. But Jesus doesn't just list it as a sign. It's like a challenge to us. How are we responding to the needs of those who are suffering? Are we using our resources, our voices, to advocate for change?
It's a tough one, right? It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of it all, but you're right, it's a reminder that our faith isn't just about what we believe, it's about how we live it out.
It's about seeing how interconnected we all are, recognizing that the suffering of others should matter to us. It should move us to action.
Okay, so wars, famines, and then there's the earthquakes. I mean, those are hard to ignore. Is there a deeper meaning there, or is it just about literal natural disasters?
I think it works on both levels. I mean, we've definitely seen a rise in seismic activity lately, and the devastation can be incredible, but I also see a metaphorical layer to it. Think about it. Earthquakes shake things up, they disrupt the status quo, they force us to confront our own vulnerability.
It's like a wake-up call, right? We think we're in control, and then suddenly the ground beneath us shifts.
Exactly, and maybe that's what Jesus is getting at. It's not necessarily about predicting specific events, but more about a shift in perspective, recognizing that things can change in an instant, that we're not as secure as we think we are, and maybe that's a good thing. It can force us to reevaluate, to let go of our need for control.
That's interesting. Okay, let's talk about false prophets. How do we even know who to trust these days? It's like everyone's got an agenda, a message, a platform. It's so overwhelming.
I know, right? Information overload is a real thing. But that's why I think discernment is so crucial. And remember, it's not about being cynical or suspicious of everyone, but about developing that inner compass, that ability to filter what we're hearing through the lens of truth.
So how do we do that? How do we build that discernment muscle?
Well, it starts with knowing what we believe, right? What are our core values? What does our faith teach us? And then we have to be willing to ask hard questions. What are the motives behind this message? What are the potential consequences? Does this lead to love? Does it point to truth?
So it's about critical thinking, but it's also about staying rooted in our faith, in our values, not just passively absorbing everything we hear, but actively engaging with it.
Exactly. It's a process, a journey. We're always learning, always growing, and we have to be okay with that.
Okay, so wars, famines, earthquakes, false prophets.
Yeah.
And then Jesus talks about this increase in wickedness, this idea that the love of most will grow cold. That's pretty heavy. Does that mean we're all just inherently bad?
I don't think Jesus is saying we're all bad to the core, but he is acknowledging the reality of sin, of selfishness. And I think we see that playing out in so many ways today.
Yeah, the division, the polarization, the way people talk to each other online is like we've forgotten how to disagree without being disrespectful, how to have empathy for those who see things differently.
And that's the challenge, isn't it? How do we live as people of faith, as people of love, in a world that seems to be losing its grip on both? How do we resist that pull towards cynicism, that temptation to give up hope?
It's like we're constantly being pulled in two directions, toward despair and toward hope. So how do we navigate that tension? Where do we find that balance?
I think it goes back to that idea of anchoring ourselves in something bigger than ourselves. Our faith, our values, our belief in a God who is still working in the world even when we can't see it.
Okay, so we've unpacked a lot of heavy stuff. Wars, famines, earthquakes, false prophets, the erosion of love, and it can feel kind of overwhelming. But I keep coming back to that question, what does this mean for us today? How do we take all this knowledge and actually live differently? It's like we need a bridge between the biblical text and our everyday lives.
You're so right. And that bridge, that's where we're headed next. So get ready. We're about to get practical.
Okay, so we've explored the signs, talked about all that deception stuff, even touched on the Great Tribulation. But now let's bring it all home. How do we actually live with all this knowledge? What does it even mean to be ready for Christ's return when we don't know when it's happening?
That's the question, right? And to be honest, it's something I think about a lot too. But I think if we take one big thing away from Matthew 24, it's this idea of urgency. Not living in fear, but with a real sense of purpose.
Okay, urgency, not fear. That makes sense. But how do we do that? It's so easy to hear about the end times and just freak out or shut down completely.
I think it starts with understanding what that urgency actually means. It's not about stocking up on supplies or trying to figure out secret codes in the Bible. It's about making our lives count, aligning ourselves with what God cares about.
So living with intention, making choices every day that show what we believe.
Exactly. It's about asking ourselves, how can I use my time well? How can I use my talents? How can I show God's love to the people around me?
It's not about being perfect, though, right? Because none of us are.
No, not at all. It's about trying to live a life that honors God, that shows his character to the world, and everyone's going to do that differently.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about that parable of the faithful and wicked servants? That always stood out to me in this chapter.
Yeah, that parable really gets to the core of it. Remember, the faithful servant is the one who's busy doing his job, even when his master is away. He's not slacking off or taking advantage. He's ready for his master to come back at any time.
So it's about being trustworthy, being responsible, doing what we're supposed to do even when no one's watching.
Exactly. Being faithful in the small things and the everyday stuff. Because that's how we build character. And it's our character that will keep us strong when things get tough, when life throws those curveballs.
That makes me think about what we were talking about before with discernment. The more we align ourselves with God's truth, the stronger our inner compass becomes, and the better we can handle whatever comes our way.
It's all connected, really. Living with intention, living with purpose, knowing that we have a responsibility to make a difference in the world. And that's not coming from a place of fear, but from a place of love. And that love, that hope, that faith, those are the things that will see us through.
This has been a really powerful conversation. We've only just scratched the surface of Matthew 24, but I feel like I'm seeing it in a whole new way. It's not just about predicting the future. It's about changing how we live today.
That's what's so amazing about the Bible. It's alive, you know? It speaks to us no matter when or where we are. And Matthew 24, well, it really makes us wake up and pay attention. It makes us think about our lives, what's important, and how we connect with God.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away?
I hope they'll hear both the urgency and the hope that Matthew 24 offers. I hope they'll live with a sense of purpose, knowing that every moment is precious, a chance to make a difference, and to never forget that even when things seem dark and chaotic, there's a light shining, a promise of something better, something that will ultimately make everything new.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep seeking truth. And until next time, may you live with urgency, with hope, and with a heart that's fully alive.